Let's go straight over to historian and broadcaster Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, because we haven't got too much time. Rafe, welcome to the show, and it's our favourite subject, mad wokery. The royal parks that run the big parks around London, particularly Hyde Park, which is near the Royal Albert Hall, Kensington Palace. And there is the massive 1872, 176 feet high Albert Memorial. It's all, I've always personally considered it to be rather hideous, but it is there. And it is part of London's pageantry, part of the scenery, and it must remain. In the 1980s, they tried to pull it down for some reason, but now Royal Parks, that runs Hyde Parks, has announced that this memorial, built or commissioned by Queen Victoria in 1872 to commemorate her beloved German husband Albert, is highly offensive because it reflects a Victorian view of the world. Well, it kind of would, really, wouldn't it, having been commissioned by Queen Victoria? And why do the Royal Parks feel it necessary to inform us that this memorial, part of the London skyline, is highly offensive? It is, of course, wrapped up in colonialism and imperialism. Asia, the continent of Asia, is represented by a woman on an elephant, and so on and so forth. But, I mean, this is just more of this madness, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter that Asia is represented by a woman on an elephant, because Europe is represented by a woman on a bull. You know, Africa is represented by a woman on a camel. I mean, these are all continents depicted in very noble and majestic ways. You know, we depict Britannia as a woman. You know, France depicts Madeline as a woman. The arguments that are put forward that somehow depicting continents as ethnic women is racist doesn't hold true, because why would you have a European woman on a bull? This is one of the most ludicrous and, you know, risible stories I've heard for a long time. And it really reveals, you know, the extent to which our institutions have been completely captured by woke ideologues and, you know, and these sort of, you know, iconoclasts who are obsessed with undermining and attacking our history and heritage at every opportunity. This is not a monument to colonialism and racial supremacy. It's a monument, first of all, to Prince Albert, of course, who was the first royal ever to become political when he publicly denounced slavery and apologized for all the horrors of it, something people don't really realize. But it's also a monument to science, to civilization, engineering, industry. It's about the genius of the West and the limitless possibility of humanity. And actually, if we really want to make Britain great again, we could do worse than look to Sir George Gilbert Scott's glorious memorial. I think it's actually a very grand memorial, for inspiration, because you've got everything that made Victorian Britain great. You know, the virtues of faith and justice and charity are all there, the industry, the positivity, the self-confidence of the Victorian world, the self-belief. None of those things are present in modern-day Britain, I would tell you, and that may be why we're in such a dire mess.
And there's another reason that, as I say, personally, aesthetically, I've never liked the look of this memorial, but that's just my opinion. I think it's an important memorial, and it is also, it's a great love story. This is a testament to Victoria's deep love of Albert, you know, and a massive monument to her devotion to this man. So in that way too, there's a certain beauty about it, and it is just this deriding of the past, you know, the appalling Victorian view of the world. What is wrong with Victorians having a Victorian view of the world? What kind of view of the world do you expect them to have? A 21st century one?
Yeah, it's rather like Basil Fawlty in Fawlty Tower saying, what do you expect when you look out of a Torquay window? What do you expect to see? Hills of Wildebeest? The Sydney Opera House?
Exactly.
There was a line from the novel The Go-Between, which is very famous. It said, the past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. Why we need to constantly judge the past by today's standards, I simply don't understand. You know, today I was actually at the Albert Memorial. I was recording a segment for BBC London's Evening News on this very topic, and I walked around it. And what was remarkable was, for the 19th century, you know, people who are identity politics types should actually be looking to this as a great celebration of ethnic diversity.
Yeah.
because you have an Islamic scholar, a Chinese potter, a Cleopatra-like
Yeah.
figure with a speech for Egyptian civilization. All of these people depicted so positively, and there are more women on this monument than there are men. So if you are a box ticker, this should actually, it's quite remarkable to see such a positive display of diversity. And as you say, this was commissioned by Queen Victoria, who was remarkably liberal and progressive on issues of race. She adopted many godchildren from different races. She allowed Sikhs to have their heads covered in her presence. And she even learned Hindustani, Urdu, from her beloved Muslim attendant, Abdul Karim. And so, that there's a reason that I think people need to understand the beauty and the romance and the love that surrounds the Albert Memorial, built by Sir George Gilbert Scott, who built the Foreign Office, built that glorious hotel at St Pancras Station. It's one of Europe's greatest monuments. It's a testament to the great values that made human civilization of the Victorian era able to lift the rest of the world out of poverty. You just have to think about the benefits that colonialism brought. We know about the dark side, but there was a very good side to the British Empire. It doubled the life expectancy of Aborigines in Australia, added 30 years to the life of sub-Saharan Africans, stopped things like Africans enslaving other Africans, stopped things like human sacrifice, although it still carries on in many places, stopped headhunting in New Zealand. And that's what you see also in the statue. It's about lifting the world
Well
up
said, Rafe.
to a higher form.
Well said, Rafe. Gotta go. But when I was a kid, I thought it looked like a spaceship, but that's another issue.